have a lot of documents that have been there for its entirety. The recommendation, I think, from Dr. Naylor and myself was to start a digital document management system. The request here is very similar in nature. This is a new software that will be with us as long as we support that. So that is a perpetual ask for $10,000. That's with the initial company we reviewed. So that would escalate as, just like everything else, the software would escalate with us.
So we had talked, I think it was a while ago, with hard copy. Correct. They do have to turn it digital. This is in that payment here or not?
So this is just looking at establishing a digital document management system. We can either A, have our internal staff scan and digitize those in a slow, steady craft process. If we wanted to hire somebody else, that would be in addition to this. This is just the software and to manage and house that
But
information.
you were going to find out if we still have to keep the paper.
So as long as
shred everything and get rid of it?
As long as we are able to access that, we do not have to keep it.
Usually by law, you don't have to keep the physical.
I'm sure there are some, but this would take, I would say, the bulk of our requirements. Yeah.
But
Even our existing, what we have, even the most recent paper copies could be digitized.
And that's just for the software to store what we have stored. And this would be a reoccurring.
Yes, that would be.
All these numbers would be reoccurring.
Correct, that's why they're on.
That's what we're on.
And again, we have to make sure we work through that. So this, weren't you saying that the requirement for some paperwork in that building is 99 years?
Correct. So very.
And that's mandated.
Yes, very, one that's very common is board minutes and agendas have to be for 99 years. Or that's the arbitrary number of the pick, but as long as you can keep them in, the records are ready to keep them. So that we could actually digitize those and have those as best practice.
And you can destroy them.
We'll look at.
That's 99 is considered digital or physical.
A record, yes. Maintaining a record. Usually, if you can reduce it, you have to print it at a later date since it's there to create. The unique one, we'll just talk about the next one, is a Chromebook cycle. As in past, this is an additional Chromebook cycle we purchased with federal ESSER funding that now is end of life. We've already stretched it out 1 year. This is now the 5th year. So this is looking to add that as a continuous replacement cycle. The reason that it hasn't asked on this one in particular is, if you remember from prior years, Dr. Naylor locks in rates in March that usually are 0% or very low interest rates. We save those money, but he usually has to commit that in March, but the budget's not approved until June. So some of that's the timing. So if we miss this March window, we would end up paying more in the year to get here to March. So it's like, if we approve it here at FP&S, it will also show up in the March voting session to approve this now to purchase Chromebooks in July, August.
When is the last ability to say up or down depending on whatever the item is?
So obviously, the last chance for this would be June. To lock in this lower rate would be March 4th transaction.
Don't we have $400,000 set aside in the cash reserve?
Correct.
So can we use that to buy these?
We could use it for this. This is most likely, that was, is if we didn't raise it and we needed, we could use it for that. Or if we had the need to add additional technology and purchase, we could do purchases on that. Correct. So we could do, yes. So this would be a 3 to 4 year lease, so we could use it the next 3 to 4 years. And then again, 3 to 4 years. So this is specifically for 3 grades.
That's what I was wondering.
And this is just a portion for 25, 26. Like I said, so multi-year, so expand this across 4 years. That's the totality of the lease agreement. They just bill us per year. So this is a $40,000.
And if I understand correctly, we typically can use money from the general fund. We just need authorization to be able to.
We would do that in March?
And we need that in March.
Correct. We can add it into the budget. It just would not have, well, we also have revenue tied to it. It would have our fund balance that we have earmarked to offset that portion. And then then it would be a future time at the end of next year, if we had a surplus of funds, we could recoup that 40,000 we used and then use again and kind of It's just this Chromebook cycle, we add this, is a perpetual cycle. We can also just outright buy them like we did in the past with those funds. We just have to have the means to recoup those over the next couple of years to then do the process again. So it's which way,
Tech companies will do that, to you to sort of do that.
it's just which way do we lean on how we want to continue the cycle that we just have in the budget, or do we want to use on balance? And just kind of bring it back and forth.
This was somewhere else that's being cut in the budget to account for a $40,000
So again,
cycle.
You saw the cuts on the prior slide, those were the cuts that were made. We made additional.
is it,
Well, I'm just gonna
That's your first pass
say,
of cuts.
we kind of, the
No,
reason,
you're not wrong, that's where our initial ones are, and as budgets, they're always fluid, and there's always going to be changes that we have.
if I can, I think what you're saying is, if we add it to the budget and we avoid potentially spotting every year coming through there and approving that. So every March, we're going to have this issue, and if I memory serves me correctly, we'll have an Apple issue when trying to get a cost savings for Apple next month.
It'll be
And
on,
then maybe the next month we'll have something else. So if we do it now, then we avoid bringing it up and having this confusion each year.
it's just the funding stream is up to the board, so we
Yeah.
want it from fund balance, so that 400,000, that's in the market to come, or we want it through our general budget, and then that, so it's just,
Yeah, it's easy to do either way.
it's just whichever way the board's comfortable. That is perfectly fine, but it's just on the priority because it's an additional request from time. That's all it is.
You were gonna say something.
Okay, so
Please keep going.
Nineteen.
So we're gonna come back next year though and ask the same thing.
I will ask to see if we want to use fund balance again or add it into budget next year. And then when we get to allocation of fund balance, I'll ask to see if we want to recoup those 40,000 we used this year.
Okay.
so we don't have a place 40,000 created, like carved out from these cuts. And
We didn't get to that portion.
again, the reason I keep asking these questions is because I've seen what's coming a few slides ahead, and it's a $2.4
Well, that's not even the case anymore because of how we changed already.
Yeah.
That was just.
This is fluid, this is fluid until, yeah. But we're not making the budget we're gonna sign, you know, at the end of summer. This is not what we're, this is not what
But
we're.
it's hard to say, yeah, go ahead, let's do a discussion on something we've got to buy this month.
And I think that's the misconception. We're
Right.
not saying let's do it, we're saying let's include it in the budget to review.
Right.
By no means is this set in
This is
stone.
not even close to being set in stone.
You have April, May, and June to come back and review this and say, nope, I don't like it anymore.
There's gonna be a
I
lot of
think we
changes
thought
to
because
that.
we lost last month, that we're getting pushed.
No,
Okay.
the normal timeline is February, we have somewhat preliminary numbers. This February, due to the quick turnaround of the meeting, we did not have numbers ready, so now we're doing them all here in March. And then in April, we'll have refined numbers, and then if it agrees, I will present the packet to the board so they can absorb it. And then in May, if there's any additional changes, we will change, and if needs be, if there are large changes, re-present for a proposed budget to be passed by the full board. And just a reminder, last year, that proposed budget is not set in stone either. It just, by law, has to be passed and set for 20 days. The board has the opportunity to change again in June, and June is the final. So we will refine it again if there needs to be refinement in June.
You said that everybody's going to come to the
We will review the budget.
Very cool. There's more cuts, you may not.
Okay.
So the question is, Chromebook cycle, I've heard about fund balance, digital document management system. I don't think we ever had a decision on that. Is it included in the next?
Is that a
Well,
priority?
that's going to be the whole district, right? Not just what comes out of
No, this
the.
would be used for district-wide.
We have to do that. There's a law that says we have to keep things for 90 years.
This is
But
our
let
means
me,
to digitize.
let's ask,
Oh, this is, say that again?
This is our means to digitize that backlog of all the hard copies we have. So this is,
Now I'm confused.
so
I thought I asked you that.
this software takes all of our existing
Yeah.
paper copies, as many as we do not have to legally require to have just paper form, digitize them from now and future. All districts will have access to this software to digitize all records that they have.
Is that what you understood, Ron?
And they all
No,
understand.
but I do now, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so how is this gonna change the move from the middle school to the high school?
Well, it impacts, that's a good question, Mrs. O, because when we started looking at the middle school and the amount of papers and documents that are currently at the middle school, and the report cards that are dated back to 1930, we need to maintain those. So moving those things out of a building and moving them into a new building or here, what space do we have? This visual space provides us to get rid of everything
Of course,
and maintain it.
you don't have to exit the middle school right away, you can leave all those papers there.
It's whether we
We can leave all the papers there and continue to have them as long as we
digitize
maintain ownership of the.
Well, I mean, and then
the software.
get into the shredding and all
Even
that.
start.
Can't shred it until we have a copy.
Well, right,
Pay
somebody
somebody
else,
else.
you get plenty of time.
Right. And that's another, that's additional funds on
Yeah.
top of that.
And that's
Okay.
by next year.
Let's keep it post here. All right. So, we're moving these forward. For review.
Yep, for review.
Dean? For now, I mean,
We agree with the purpose of the committee, so we're going to move out the board and the visual note about.
for review.
You said the oldest coming out of home balance, correct?
Correct. Kind of. And then the last is ACTI. Additional every year. This is that question of we setting aside 180,000, which is 1% for a future year.
Any thoughts at all?
Even if we don't do the 1%, we still put 180,000 in the budget.
I agree with 180,000 last year.
Yes, that's already currently,
That's already done.
it's already done, that's already accounted for. This would be an additional 180,000 to add again for such a thing. We can obviously,
And what is that 180, what account is that in?
currently,
Yeah.
if you look at your paper, it'd be 564. Yes, 564. So that includes ACTI authority funding and tuition funding. ACTI in its entirety, so it includes tuition rate and their debt service.
So the increase is 610 and then 180.
Correct. And we will see ACTI's new budget, the board will have to approve that. Usually it's in April to see what the new tuition rate and
So the $180,000 authority fund, that is this?
that's an additional 180.
This one was.
This would be a 300, this is an additional request, so the total would be 360. We have a 180 from last year, and a 100.
So we're charging 180,000 every year to get the tax increase last year. So it's 180 last year, 180 this year. That was already approved last year, correct?
So 180,000.
So we're adding
goes to
another 180,000. So it will be not 180,000, it will be 360, 360, 360.
Correct. And the reason behind that is to ramp up slowly to get to the anticipated cost of what ACTI will be. The board has the opportunity to not do that, and then when ACTI becomes, they will need to raise taxes to get there, because it will not be in the budget and we will not stay steady.
No, we're doing the 180 no matter what.
Correct.
That's already
That's-
there.
But the difference between what ACTI approves to go out and borrow versus our 180 is what the board has to
Yeah, I
get
get
to.
that. I get that, but what I'm saying, you made it sound like we're gonna have nothing, but we're not gonna have nothing, we're gonna have 180,000 every year.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
That was last year.
So we reduced
Tax
that.
increase.
Yes. So the plan last year was that 3 years of this, pause, and see what actual, maybe clean up funding what we did with middle school, high school. At the end, it says, another 1%, if we have enough to make it work, because that's what the construction cost from the feasibility says, this is what it costs.
My issue is that everything is very different than last year about this. Yeah, we don't know what's going to be. That's my,
What do you mean?
well, I mean, you have shared very quick, you have, Dan Mao won't give us any money unless we do it more.
Well, That's not gonna happen.
Well, I'm not.
He doesn't get to decide unilaterally, whether we get money or not. No, that's not gonna happen.
I
So,
think ACTI is not going away.
ACTI is definitely not going away. We will find a director. We will expand ACTI from 7 to 14 programs. We will build a building, and we've got to find some way to pay for it. I mean, it's actually shameful that we're the only county in the Commonwealth that doesn't have a really ACTI for students, or a attendance program for students.
we do have an existing TCI program.
ACTI, we do.
And what is the budget for that?
Seven programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's something that's already there
There.
servicing,
Sure.
and we have a vision, and we
Sure.
want to see it grow and all that.
Sure.
So the thing I'm concerned about is that it's kind of like at a standstill at the moment.
Well, no, not
And-
really.
and hold on. It's, you have some issues that are going on that makes me feel not so confident to take another 180,000 and put it into the 360 and keep putting the money without a clear sense of direction. And I'm just asking that do we go to the taxpayer and say, hey, look, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna make it work. We do have a vision. We are gonna do something, but there's not a clear
There is.
plan.
The authority is currently looking at land. We have 4 plots of land that we're looking at. They're gonna put out we're gonna whittle it down to 2, and within the next, 2 months, the ACTI JOC is going to make a decision on that land. And then after that, we're going to have a director. What we come up with what solution that may be, we don't know, but in another month, we'll know. Yes, we've had a step backwards, but we're gonna go right ahead and keep going forward, because that's how important this school is,
There's
this program is.
There's no definite it's not that it's not important, okay? I understand how important it is. But until we get ourselves to a place where we can really say, hey, we can really do this, we can justify it, we can go to the community, we can say, hey, you're making this investment. So I'm just saying that maybe we should just pause until all the stuff comes together, what you're talking about, and then that gets to a place where we can really say, now that makes sense.
So let me just add to that before we go too far. That's correct, but the problem is the ACTI cannot move forward without our commitment. If we do not commit and say we have funds allocated for them to proceed, they cannot proceed. That is true. If we can't, they can't borrow money unless we approve it and say we have the money to support their borrow. If we have no money to support the borrow, they cannot borrow, which then they cannot proceed.
Right.
So there's the commitment level. We have to commit that we have funds for them to borrow to then do a future project. They're
Believe me, I think the smartest thing would be to cut ACTI up and make it its own school, but that's not the situation we're in.
Did you guys see their land option?
We did not. We will see them, and we will see them, that's coming up. And look, in another month, we will have a director, we will have land, we will have everything you think we don't have. This is not a process that's going to happen overnight, but we have to say that we are committed, as Tom has said, that we are committed to the school, and we are going to, pay our share to get this up and going. That's what we have to do now. Because if we show sort of like we're not going to, like Tom said, then other schools might go and say, okay, Fairfield might say, well, you know what, Littlestown's not really in all, then, same way with Colorado Valley, or same way with Gettysburg. None of these schools are all in. So Colorado might just say, well, you know what, the heck with it. We'll just keep adding on to our school, and maybe they won't take our students because they have more students who want to, that can fill those seats. They won't take our students. Same with Gettysburg, right? Those 2 schools are the largest schools in the county. Without those 2 schools, then if they back out, then really our kids have no choice whatsoever. So we got to decide, I think, today that we're either going to back this or we're not, because I don't think we take a pause.
Well, we are putting money aside.
We're already you're not gonna get 180.
Right, right, but you don't understand how much money we're going to have to put in, now granted, we don't need it quite yet, but it's going to be, a bit of money. And we should be prepared for that, just like we have prepared with the cyclical
Okay,
plan.
so let's-
And we should raise this up, so we have that money when the time comes, because the time is coming.
But why can't we, until that time comes, until we have a firm plan that all 5 school boards are in agreement with, why can't we leave that money in the taxpayers' pockets?
So-
Not take
Because
that from
if
them
we
every
wait to
year.
that moment, then we might have to hit taxes at 3% if we want to stay in. We don't want to do that. That's why we give a little now, so we don't have to get a huge one later. Otherwise, we might as well just bow out.
Ultimately, the way we talked about it, is 3%, whether that happens now or over time.
So that's 3% when it was a $40 million project. What I hear is at least a $60 million project.
Well, of course, look at inflation. I mean, that's why we're not in
It's 9 months to a year. It went from 40 to 60. It's went up 50%.
We just have to have one person talk here, so we can follow the conversation.
Oh,
The problem we face is we can either do it slow and steady, as we've done in the past, or when the time comes, the board will have to raise several percent to get this to fruition. The board and this finance committee saying, I'm willing to wait 3 years, 2 years to then raise taxes to pay for this. That's well and good, but that's the reality where it's, like Brian says, it's moving forward. How well are we gonna be prepared?
One thing, I think, with everything else we've said, we can move it forward for review and cut it out later. I would recommend, for the sake of just discussion and move it forward, we keep it in and move it forward for review from everyone else. That way it's there, it's listed, and if we want to take a pause on it later, we can take a pause on it later.
Being disingenuous, we have to make a decision.
all right, so within